Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited to make this video. It is one for the archives, so I hope you're ready. Buckle up because I'm going to take you on a ride showing you the traditional Roora ceremony of Zimbabwe. So I'm going to start from where it begins, the traditional way, or back in my day, way before dating sites, way before mobile phones, these things or these gadgets that we have in the 21st century. How was everything conducted? So we are going the traditional route. This is about Zimbabwe's culture, customs, and traditions. That's why I say this one is for the archives. So let's get into this. And by the way, I had to write things down because I was recalling from my own experience, because I have been married before. So I know how this goes down right to the T. So I had to write things down so that I don't forget, because mind you, it has been a little while, and as we know as well, things nowadays have changed, especially when it comes to Roora. Things have changed. These days, some people are moving away from the traditional Roora ceremony or how things were done in the past. And actually, the government of Zimbabwe announced some time back, it was actually announced that paying Roora is no longer compulsory, or someone no longer has an obligation to do that. But personally, I don't see anything wrong with Roora. And by the way, I know Roora these days is being abused by some people. They're taking it the wrong way, or they are using it as a way to get rich. That's not how things were intended. This is just a token. Roora or Lobola is just a token. It's a way of bringing two families together. It's a way of acknowledging each other. That is all it is. It's not a way to punish the husband's family. That's not what it is at all. This is why I say the way things were intended. Now then, let us start. Stage one. Two people meeting. Kupfimba Musikana. If you've read that poem by Mr. Hamuchkine, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. As I said, back in the day, there were no dating sites, there were no mobile phones, no Facebook, nothing like that. You met either at school, at church, or just walking to the market, and you met each other. That's how people met. People met the traditional way, the organic way. They met naturally, and things just developed from there. So that's why I'm referring to the poem Kupfimba Musikana. And of course, according to our culture, as Africans, as Zimbabweans, for instance, as a girl, if I meet a boy in the streets and the boy says something to me, at first, even though I like the boy, at first I'm shy. I don't really reveal my feelings. But there are certain signs and signals that I can give to indicate to the boy, or to encourage the boy not to give up. So it's called flirting. That's what we call it. So that's the first stage. It's boy meets girl. And after that, if the two then agree to go ahead with the relationship, and then after a while, things develop to the point that the boy actually now wants to propose marriage to the girl. He can see his future with this girl. What does he do according to the Zimbabwean tradition? Stage number 2, Kupanana Nhumbi, or the engagement. Now, what happens according to Zimbabwean tradition? If the two wants to get engaged, now they go and visit Tete, the father's sister, the aunt. So the boy and the girl agree that, okay, we want to get married, but before we can do anything, we need to get engaged. The boy doesn't necessarily get down on one knee, as is done nowadays. Rather, the two will go and visit the aunt, the Tete. So they visit the aunt, and the two of them present their case. They tell their aunt their intention, and in front of the aunt, as the witness, they exchange Nhumbi, they exchange tokens. For example, the guy can give his watch to the girl as a promise. It's a promise to the girl that I want to marry you, and vice versa, the girl will give something to the boy. Maybe she chooses to give him, let's say, a scarf, a nice scarf, whatever it is that she chooses to give to the boy. That is what she would do as a promise as well, that I am here, I want to be your wife. So they make those promises to each other in front of Tete. Tete is the witness. So after that event, it is now left for Tete to handle the matter. How Tete handles business is by going to the girl's father to present their case on their behalf, on the girls' and the boys' behalf. So Tete goes to sit down with the girl's father, because according to our culture, customs, and traditions, there are certain things you can't just go and tell your father or tell your mother. As a daughter, as a son, sometimes you have to go through someone. You don't just come out with things like that. According to our culture, you have to go through someone. So this someone usually is the tete or the sekuru, but in this situation, it is the tete. She goes, she presents the case, and if the father is happy with what he has heard from the tete, then he gives his permission. He gives the go-ahead, even though those two in love have already agreed, but it has to be made official. Once the father is happy, it is now official. And by the way, according to our culture, the father is the head of the family. That is why issues are presented to him. And of course, after things are presented to him, he goes and tells his wife as well. So finally, the two will be in agreement. The parents will be in agreement or have to be in agreement. So that is the second stage, Kupanana Nhumbi, or the engagement, according to tradition. So after that, we are getting closer and closer now to the main ceremony. So after that, we get to the stage that is called, or commonly known as, Kukumbira. Usually the boy or the husband-to-be, I don't think we should continue calling him boy. Now he's a man who is about to get married, so we can't continue to call him boy, husband-to-be. So now the husband-to-be, when he wants to start the ball rolling, when he's ready to take his wife, he has to do what is called Kukumbira. And to do this, whatever messages he needs to pass on to the family, he has to go through Munyai, what we call Munyai, or someone, a representative, someone to speak on his behalf. He doesn't do it himself. He doesn't just go there and say, okay, this is what I want to do. On such a date, I want to come and do this. That's not how it works. He has to send a representative, a neighbor, or a representative of his own choice. He has to go through proper channels, otherwise you'll have to pay a fine. They call it Rupwanya Ruzhowa. That is the name of the crime. I mean, I'm just calling it a crime because he has behaved like an intruder. So he has to pay a fine. If that happens, if the husband-to-be doesn't follow the proper channels, you will have to pay a fine called Rupwanya Ruzhowa. It's a small fine. It's not like a major thing. It's just acknowledging his wrongs. So after he pays Rupwanya Ruzhowa, but in the case of our husband-to-be, let's say he didn't break any laws or customs or traditions, he went through the proper channels, the munyais and so forth, and he's made his intentions clear. He has sent his messages, and now everyone knows when the Lobola or the Roora ceremony is taking place. Now everyone will be gathered, or everyone will be invited for that ceremony. Everyone who needs to be there, according to our culture, customs, and traditions, everyone who needs to be there will be there or has to be there. Of course, there are certain situations where someone is not able to attend for whatever reason, and they may choose to send a representative. It happens as well. But what is important to remember is, during the Roora or Lobola ceremony in Zimbabwe, all the key players will be present. All the stakeholders, let me put it like that. The wife-to-be's father, the wife-to-be's mother, the aunt has to be there. The husband-to-be's munyai has to be there. Everyone the husband-to-be chooses to support him on this day will be there as well. During this ceremony, the husband-to-be's parents do not have to be there. They don't have to be there. But the delegation that is sent to pay the lobola will be there from the husband's side. Now, before the negotiations begin, the husband-to-be has to pay what is called Vhuramuromo. In other words, the husband is paying for people to start talking. Vhura means open and muromo means mouth. So open your mouth. You can start to speak now. Again, this is a very tiny amount. It's just a token, just to start the ball rolling. And now we're getting to the good bits. The next bit is the grocery. Usually the husband will bring groceries, you know, things to eat, meat, bread, whatever the husband-to-be brings, that is what people will eat. While the lobola negotiations are taking place, people will be eating, people will be drinking. So this is the grocery stage. The grocery is presented, it is inspected, and if everyone is happy, then things can proceed. The next stage, after the grocery bit is out of the way, is called Matekenya Ndebvu. Matekenya Ndebvu is paid in honor of the father. It is done to honor the father. It is a symbol, or it symbolizes the relationship between the wife-to-be and her dad. You know, when children are growing up, usually if the child is playing, what usually happens is the child plays with the father's beard. So that is all it means here. It's just a gesture. It's just to honor the father for the role that he played in the growing up of the wife-to-be. So it's a small token as well. It's not a huge amount. And an equivalent of that is also paid to the mother. And it is called Mapfukudza Dumbu. It's just to honor the mother as well for carrying the wife-to-be for those 9 months and for the role she played in raising that wife-to-be. It's just a token. It's a way, or it's an opportunity for the husband-to-be to thank the mom for the wonderful job that she did to raise his wife-to-be. It's just a way of saying, thank you, I appreciate the good job that you did, and now I'm able to marry my wife. It is because of your work. Again, it's a tiny amount, just a token to honor the mother. Now we're getting to the main part of this whole ceremony, and that part is called Rusambo. This is when the husband-to-be pays the bride price. Now, according to the Zimbabwean culture, the bride price is paid in the form of cattle. The husband-to-be has to pay cows to the father. For example, the father might say, for my daughter, I'm charging 7 cows. It means that that is the value that the father places on his daughter. So that is what he will charge. But that doesn't mean that the husband-to-be has to pay all the cattle in one go. In our culture, they say, "Munhu hapedze kuroora." Somebody will always be paying towards that bride price. That's what it means. Mind you, this is just a token. It's not a matter of punishing the husband-to-be. That's not what it's about. It's not a punishment. Mind you, there are also other charges as well that the husband-to-be will be asked to pay, which I'm going to get into in a minute. So it doesn't mean that everything has to be paid in one go or at the same time. And also there are times as well, if the husband-to-be pays everything, let's say the husband-to-be decides to pay all the amount that is charged. If the husband-to-be pays for everything that is asked for on the day, the father can actually decide, you know what, I'm going to return this amount. It's a way of the father acknowledging that, yes, I place this much value on my daughter, but I also recognize that my daughter may actually disappoint the husband. The father will not say that exactly, but it is understood, or the father understands that. So in such a situation, the father may decide to return some of the money just in case. For example, the wife might actually not be able to bear children. That is just one example of how things can go wrong in that new family. But there are certain things that are mandatory that the husband-to-be must honor. For example, Mombe Yeumai, that is 1 cow that is paid to the mother. This one is a must. Again, it's just to acknowledge the mother and to thank the mother and so forth. And also Mombe Yababa, 1 cow for the father. That is the equivalent of Mombe Yeumai. Those two are a must. The husband-to-be has to pay for those. So if during Rusambo, or the main bride price, the father has asked for 7 cows, for argument's sake, let's say the Rusambo is 7 cows. Because of those 2 mandatory cows, it then means that the husband-to-be has to pay 9 cows. Because those 2 are separate, they are mandatory, they come on their own. The last thing to be paid during the Roora ceremony or Lobola ceremony in Zimbabwe is Mbudzi Yemasungiro. Because Masungiro or Kusungira usually happens when the wife becomes pregnant and then she has to go back to her parents to give birth. Usually it happens with the first child. For every first child, according to our customs, culture, and traditions, if a wife is pregnant for the first time or with the first child, then the wife, before she gives birth, she has to go back to her parents' home to give birth there for the first time. It's done so that the wife can be taught how to look after the baby and so forth, how to handle business, basically, once you're a mom. So kusungira, usually, it means that process of taking the wife back to her parents to give birth. So this mbudzi, or the goat, is paid during the Lobola ceremony. It's just paid in advance. It's usually 1, I'm not sure, correct me in the comments section, but this is what I had for you in this video when it comes to Lobola or Roora ceremony in Zimbabwe, the stages I've gone through. If there's a stage that I've left out, then by all means, feel free to chip in the comments section. But this is according to my recollection. These are the main stages that you go through from start to finish if you want to fulfill the Roora ceremony according to our culture, the Zimbabwean culture, in the manner that things were intended.